What is going on, all you lovely people out there? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Michael Hora, and this is a lovely penguin. Welcome back. Welcome back to another awesome set breakdown. This time we are with the band 17, checking out their music video, Fallin Flower. It is really a beautiful song, and it was a really beautiful video. And I believe, if I'm correct, they only did it on 2 different locations. One was an actual location that they shot at, and then the second one was in the studio. So we are going to go through this video. I'm mainly going to look at the behind the scenes because you could see things a little bit better in that. But I'll pick a few things to point out to you guys that are pretty sweet. So first we'll start off with all the stuff that I saw that was in the studio. Let's go. So one of the first shots that we see that was from inside of the studio, I believe, is this one right here. It's the one we start off the behind the scenes video with. They have this nice room set up. It's supposed to be like a dance practice room. It's kind of the feel that they go for. So they have like the wood flooring in. You just buy those in panels and put them in real easy. And then they have these walls set up with windows. Now, the windows, you can kind of see they're a little bit opaque, if you would. And that's because they actually, if they do it the way that we've done it on sets that I've worked on in the past, is a lot of the times, instead of actually putting glass or something like that there, they have these rolls of paper that are called diffusers. And it will kind of allow them to shine lights through, but it won't be as harsh and it won't be as bright. So there's different levels of how see-through it is. But they take that, they put the paper on, and then they just tape it behind the wall. And it makes it look like there's glass in the window. Just kind of like fogged up glass, if you would. But it was also pretty cool, too, because they actually talk about it in the making of here, where they talk about the dust that's on the floor is actually some sort of grain dust that they have. So I'm assuming it's some sort of like flour that they put on the floor, maybe some sort of other grain that they would use to make flour. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of creative stuff that people use, you know, and like, they're kicking it, and it really makes for aesthetics to move. They actually put some on themselves so that as they make moves, it makes it more dramatic because it then will kind of sit in the air for a little bit as they move. It adds a really, really cool effect to videos, especially when they do the slow motion shots. Then you really get to see the powder in the air, and it looks awesome. So relatively easy set, but it's a nice, cool little trick that I feel like most people could figure it out, but, you know, it's just nice to know. So right here, you can actually see, it's just for more of like a close-up shot for this guy. He is the one who's dressed up as the angel, where he's jumping on a trampoline, which they actually brought in a trampoline. It's kind of hard to see with all the subtitles and stuff going on here at the bottom, but you can actually see when he's moving, he's jumping on a trampoline. And yeah, they just threw a bunch of feathers, some white feathers on there. It's on it one of those sets where it's just a nice big white set, and then they just have a light above. You can actually see, as you move a little bit further, you can actually see right above our guy right here. They actually have lights that are red, and that's how you get the red effect there. Really cool, really nice. Simple enough. Not too much for art, I will say. It'd just be slightly annoying to clean up. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Poet's Room right now. I don't actually know if they shot this one on location because it looks like they were definitely inside of a building and outside of a building somewhere, I'm assuming in Korea. And yeah, I mean, this is a set that could be easily set up anywhere. It's more or less a simple office setup. I mean, obviously they're making it look a little bit more artistic because it would be a poet. So the few little things that you might notice the difference is like, yeah, he's got this clear orb thing. I don't actually know what those glass pieces are, but that would be a little bit more of like an artsy thing. And then the big giveaway is the nice big quill. Definitely shows that he's a writer, and it adds just that little bit of extra taste. And you can actually see a couple of ink wells in the back here. It looks like different colored ink wells that you would use that quill in. So other than that, I mean, it's books, it's papers. They just, you know, you could rip them from anything. You can print out random stuff. No one's actually going to be able to see what's on the paper. So it's like, as long as it just looks like there's something there. I mean, they literally could have just sat there and just scribbled across and no one's going to know, you know. like for the most part, who's able to zoom in and even see any of this stuff. So sometimes people will write like crew member names on things and stuff like that as a little special homage to people. But for the most part, all this stuff you're going to see here is going to be rented. It's cool when they actually get lighting fixtures. If they have wires at work, the lighting team will usually have bulbs with them that they can put into the lights, and then sometimes even have smart lights where they can kind of control it themselves. If not, they usually come with these attachments that you'd plug into. That would be like a dimmer that you plug it into that, and then you plug the dimmer into the wall, and then you can control just how much light's coming out, which just makes things a little bit easier to control on the scene. But yeah, for the most part, this one's another relatively easy build. I just didn't know which set it was at. So this shot in particular is very, very cool to me, because what it shows is that this is something we haven't gotten to see too much in other music videos, but this is something that the studio had on hand, where they have a platform that they can raise and lower from the ceiling. You can actually see the cables if you look to the very right side here. There's also one over the camera on the left there, where they can lower and raise this platform up. And then what they did is they just lowered it down low enough that he could get on, and then they just decorated it with flowers. So a lot of the time with these flowers, they're fake. They actually mention it in the behind the scenes, so we actually know these flowers are fake. But there's this green like stuff that it's I want to say it's like a foam. I don't actually know exactly what it is, but it's actually made for real flowers. But it also works great for holding fake flowers as well. But typically what you do is you wet the whole thing, and it's like I said, it's kind of like foam, but you just stick the flowers into it, and then like they will be able to absorb the moisture from that material. I forgot. I'm so blanking on what it's called. I'm gonna look it up. Okay, I looked it up. They're just called green floral bricks, styrofoam bricks. Jeez Louise, say that 10 times fast. Jeez. But yeah, it's something that you can do. You can cover it. You could see towards the bottom here, they use a lot of like moss and like smaller flowers and stuff to kind of cover up whatever's there. But most likely they used that green foam to make sure everything can stand and stick on up. But still, it's just a nice way that you see the studio can work with the art team. And sometimes our team doesn't have to build something because the studio has it already, which is sick. Makes our lives way easier. This shot is also a funny one. Very, very little going on here. But the best part is that there is a art person behind the camera, most likely standing on like a ladder or something like that, just to get them a little bit of height. They're just throwing flowers at this guy. That's it. It's one of those weird little things. So this set that they have here, they actually use this like a little bit like twice, I believe. They use this for the shadow part, where their shadows are up on a white cloth, but then they also use this obviously for this dancing part of the music video. But it's more or less a relatively easy rigged setup. You can actually see the wires that are coming down, which are holding up these bars. But yeah, you just get like a shiny gold fabric and you hang it up off the poles that they drop down, and then you just have a couple of long flats that go vertical, you know. And then these pieces right here, where there's the squares, it looks like they just got a couple of big pieces of like an opaque plastic, kind of like what I was talking about with the diffusers, but this time it's actually just a big piece of plastic, and then they shoot light through it. And they also they glue on those gold squares, which just look kind of like a gold foil, so it wouldn't be too hard. But you can tell they just did it by hand because there's certain pieces that are touching. They're a little cockeyed at certain areas as well, but it gives it that handmade feel. But regardless, it doesn't really take away from anything. So looks good though. It really, really looks good. Now this scene in particular is so nice. So a little thing that you can see, and I'm bringing us to this close-up of the flowers just because it's definitely really hard to see, but you can kind of see through up here at the top that there is like a net going across the top, which is what they attached the flowers to in order to let them hang down. So in this studio, they have this big round piece. They got this big round piece, and then they lined it with some netting in order to hang all the flowers down. They also have a nice big circle in the middle, which they rig through the ropes for this guy to be hanging right in the middle there. Then on the floor, they have this nice, huge, circular stage that I imagine is part of I imagine it's part of the studio already, so they didn't have to bring that in. However, they did cover it with a very nice white sand to kind of keep it kind of clear. And the weird thing that most people don't realize is you can actually rent sand, and you can rent dirt, you can rent rocks, you can rent anything. So you can get cleaner stuff, and you can get a little dirtier stuff. So they could actually order like a whitish sand, and they could get it. So they got it. They also have a couple of these rock fixtures that they probably rented as well. And then all these plants that make it look like a desert, also rented, brought in to fill the space. They also, in another shot, had these nice stones that are just clean cut through, which you'd get from another prop house as well. They probably are pretty heavy, unfortunately, but they're really smooth. They're really nice, and they make for a great little walking path for the guys to walk on. And it adds, because they're just straight up black against the white sand. Another thing that they did on this awesome stage is they had him tied up, and then the angel comes to visit him because he's been wandering the desert. And the interesting thing about the rope is it's not that hard to make rope look that damaged. Essentially, you buy a big pack of rope, cut it to the length that it needs to be, and then every little bit just kind of do a couple little nicks in with a razor blade, and the rope will start to fray out a little bit, and it adds to that kind of like ripped up, torn up rope feeling. However, there's another way that you could have it, is by actually having a beat up, worn out rope from using it a bunch. So sometimes art directors will have, or even production designers, they keep the props that they can use for other things. So sometimes you just have rope that's been laying around that you've used a whole bunch of times, and it's getting a little ratty and torn up and stuff, so it could work for something like this, which then again, it's just one less thing you have to rent. But I believe that they most likely just bought some rope, because rope's not super expensive, and just kind of tore it up a little bit just to give it that little bit of extra oomph, if you would. So this shot actually surprised me quite a bit. I was not expecting this one to be an outdoor shot. This looks like it was done in a studio when you're actually watching the music video. But, I mean, you look at how close up they get to him, and it's just him with these white cloths hanging down and some flowers, and it looks like it would have been an indoor shot. And it's well lit. You can actually see the light when we skip back here. You can see this stand here. This is actually where the light's coming from. The light's just up on top. And yeah, that's just something I was not expecting. I genuinely didn't think that was going to be a set piece. But it also kind of gave away that they were on a set too, which is nice. Because then we get to this guy's shot. And I believe this is genuine wall that was ripped through. It's actually concrete, as well as it looks like a bit of drywall over some bricks. And yeah, I mean, actually, it might not be drywall. I don't know. But there's definitely bricks in there as well. But yeah, that's one less thing that you actually have to make. It's something that is on set already. So that when they were at this location, it was already there. However, I will say, just to kind of clean the room up a little bit, you can actually tell, just because there's not a very clean seam where the floor to the wall is, that these blue walls in the back here, they're actually flats. They made those walls and put them up inside of this room in order to make it look probably a little bit smaller, as well as a little cleaner, most likely, because I imagine the walls are a little more crumbly like this. But also, a big thing that you probably can see very, very clearly here is this string that's going across the door. And originally, I was going to say this is a really easy thing for you to build and set up, because I would have said you can just drill a bunch of screws into the wall, get a nice long bundle of yarn, and just tie it to like the top screw, and then just run it back and forth around different screws and just zigzagging up and down and all the way across until you run out of yarn, and then you get what you get here. But later in the music video, they actually move inward and all the strings droop. So that leads me to believe that they most likely have a piece of wood that's on either side of the door, and they screwed all the screws into that rather than into the wall itself, so that they can move this open and close. Because also another thing that's just coming to my mind right now is he might actually just be fully closed into the room, and he'd need to be able to get in and out of the room. So instead of having to climb through the ropes, they probably just go whoop, and just like, it's almost like a door, if you would, where they can just move the wood across the doorway, all the strings go to one side, and then you can walk in and out. Which is also funny, because that means that there's an art person sitting inside the room with him just behind the wall. I can't tell you how many times I've been in short films and stuff because I'm technically in the shot, but not really, because I'm just hiding behind something. Like there is a short film that we did where there was a whole fight scene in a kitchen where I needed to be switching out the phones, because the phones were a big set piece for this fight, and they needed to constantly be changing phones and making sure it was okay and taken care of, and then also resetting the rest of the art pieces that they're moving, the rest of the props that they're moving. So it would take too long for me to run in and out of the kitchen that we were shooting in. So I would just stand behind cabinets, I'm hiding behind tables, I'm ducked behind counters. Depending on wherever the camera was, I'm just ducked down behind something so you can't see me. But I'm in it. I'm in the whole entire fight. just hiding around there, you know what I'm saying? So it would be funny to see that there's most likely an art person hiding behind over here. Plus, they also got a couple of different statues. It looks like probably some sort of like lighting fixtures for outdoor things, and then they cut them up. You can buy those little plastic pieces for like decoration, but yeah, they just ripped them to pieces and dropped them all over the floor, which actually makes for a nice little aesthetic. It looks like a bunch of broken statues. The painter's room. This one is another one of those really awesome shots. I want to say this was done in the studio just because of all the red lighting. However, I also don't know. You can move those red lights. They're not just stationary there the whole time. So I believe this one to be on set. However, it's just a little too hard to tell exactly where. But I mean, it's another really simple thing. They printed out a graphic of whoever this guy on the wall is, and then they just threw some white paint on his face. They got a canvas with an art stand, an art easel, if you would, and you just painted on it a little bit, and then you just rip right through it. It looks like somebody might have just punched a hole in it, like literally just punched through it, because sometimes that's what you get to do as an art person, which is great. It's fun, and it's a nice way to take out some anger, if you would. But yeah, and then you just rip it, make it look tattered and whatnot, and yeah, I mean, it would literally look like what he just did to it, like he punched through it because he was angry or something. Now, this shot, this scene right here where we finally meet our angel, he is also chained up, which is interesting as well. A nice little touch that they did to the chains, and there's actually multiple chains that you see throughout the music video. They just took some cloth and tore it up, ripped it into strips, probably with like a razor blade or something, so it'll be a little bit frayed, and they just weaved it through the chains. So it just adds a little bit of texture, and it makes it look less aggressive, if you would, than just solid steel chains or whatever. But I mean, you can get chains from Home Depot. It's not super expensive, but you can get those. You just wrap them up with different cloths and whatnot to make it look a little less intense. But this guy, he's got the red light on him as well. But if you look in the making of video, He's also on location. So could the art room, the painter's room be on set? Most likely, honestly. But who knows? Also, this could also be in the studio somewhere. Just not inside the big studio room. This could just be in one of their offices or something. I don't actually know. I'm just making educated guesses, if you would. So real quick before we go, I just wanted to show you some of the other chains I was talking about. And this is what I mean. It's chains with little bits of fabric just weaved through it. So it looks a little less aggressive. However, it's still a chain. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us here today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something about the art department, the art world, and you can kind of see just how beautiful this music video really is. So if you enjoyed it, please go ahead, like the video, give me a sub to the channel. It helps us grow. And then also go ahead and check all the links down below. It'll take you to the social medias that I have, as well as a Discord and my Twitch channel, which is a great way for you guys to be able to connect with me personally. So if you feel inclined, please come ahead and join us. It'll be a lot of fun, I promise. But other than that, guys, I love you. Stay aggressively positive. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Love you. Bye.